What's an industry secret in the field you work in? Part 2. Amusement park ride operator here. If your kid is crying, and you want us to stop the ride, even if we want to, it's not gonna stop immediately. The carousel will spin a few more circles, or the ship will swing a few more times, before stopping. The only exceptions is the emergency stop, which will absolutely F up the ride for a while if we press it. Hence we only use it in actual life-threatening situations. The best thing you can do is try to get your kid to calm down as the ride comes to a stop, and no yelling, "Stop the ride" at us, does not make it stop any faster. The guy who shows up at your house to make repairs is usually the guy who decides how much to charge you. Standing behind him while he works cost extra. Treating him like shit cost extra. Being nice to him can save you a lot of money. The lighter the roast of coffee, the more caffeine it has, not the other way around. So often, I'll hear people say, "I'll take a light roast, I don't want to be up all night, after all, haha." Remember, the caffeine is in the bean at the start. The more you roast it, the more caffeine burns off, since it's in the natural oils of the bean. Whenever you tell someone to check in the back of a grocery store, they go back there, and stand for a few moments, and come back out. 99% of the time if it's not on the shelf we are out, but we know you won't believe us, so we go look for it, so you feel a bit better, even though we already knew there was none back there. Any individual part of flying an airplane isn't difficult, it's 100 small things piling up makes things difficult. As opposed to, say, playing the trumpet. Hitting that high note repeatedly is difficult, and physically demanding. Landing is easy, once you've practiced it a bit, but when it gets difficult, you just nope out of there, and land somewhere else. There is way more butter than you think in almost every dish you eat at fancy restaurants, and that is usually the reason you won't see the amount of calories in each dish. Source: 5 years as a chef in Italian cuisine, head chef, 8 years in an Italian kitchen. Edit: since it has been asked if I could recommend one guidebook for you all to have in your kitchen, it would be Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, Mastering the Elements of Good Cooking, by Samin Nosrat. Yes, there are a plethora of others, but this one is my personal favorite. Change your dirty furnace filters and clean your AC coils outside. These make up an easy 30% of my calls for no heat/cooling. Edit: more attention than I thought. So, real quick, you have 2 coils, inside and outside. Your furnace filter keeps the inside one clean, so make sure the filter is clean. Outside coil: kill power to the unit, remove the coil guard and top, usually 5/16 or 1/4 nut driver, and like 20 screws. Don't use high pressure water, simply on a shower setting, and hold it a few inches away from the coil. Do from both ways. Button that beauty up, and wait for it to dry, before turning power back on. Your head pressures are gonna love you. Edit 2. Oh, don't forget to blow your condensate line more than your husband. Prevents water flowing back into the unit from a block. The industry-leading software is about at least 10 years old at its core. If it works, we don't know how it works, it just does. We had an engineer essentially beg, borrow and steal his own work hours to rewrite an entire facet of our software to be independent of the 8-year-old core we'd outgrown 5 years ago, and as soon as he did, and wrote a nice utility for testing, that was now possible, which means we didn't have to spin up so many services in local environments. We got a ton of work in that area of the software. Like I'm still working on it, and he's already moved on to another company. The debt he erased and the tool he created. It's like we're 60% better and faster at everything, plus the morale factor. We would have drowned without that work. We miss you, MT. Cigarettes were years ago demanded by the EU to contain less nicotine. The manufacturers of cigarettes looked at each other quite dumbfounded, because how the F are you supposed to extract a naturally occurring product in a plant? The solution was ingenious, and the EU demand eventually helped the tobacco industry skyrocket in income. The tobacco is during production treated with liquid nitrogen, which almost doubles the volume of a tobacco, making significantly less tobacco needed to fill a cigarette, thereby lowering the amount of nicotine. I'm in cybersecurity, and deal mostly with the largest companies and governments in the world. Every one of them has been breached, to carrying degrees, by the Russians and Chinese. Almost daily. It's not a matter of if they'll get in, it's a matter of how long they'll be there, and how much damage they'll do, before you find them. I work at a university. I'm not an academic advisor in any department, but I provide services to them, and help them graduate people, when it's unclear whether students met all the requirements or not. And the industry secret is, that most of you really don't know what you want to do, when you start college. The half that say they do, are mainly programmed by their parents, go into IT, make large dollars. But they have no real idea of what they'd really like. So, don't feel weird or a failure if you change majors. It means that you actually looked around, and found something you like better. Stats show that students, who change majors do better, on the average, in school, than the ones, who stick with the major they came in on. This shouldn't actually be a secret, but students don't seem to know it. Audio engineer here. A few seemingly obvious things to point out. 9 times with a studio you get what you pay for. You have to pay for years of experience, acclaimed expertise, plus hundreds of thousands of dollars in equipment and software tools, not to mention the hundreds of thousands of dollars that went into the acoustic engineering of the physical recording space alone. People walk into great studios balk at $1,000 plus a song, but don't realize they're getting access to close to $1 million in tools, plus an engineer, who's going to make them sound better than life. On the flip side of that coin, beware of eye candy. Don't be fooled by big mixing consoles. Sometimes they're not even used for your music. Hell, sometimes they don't even function. I've seen studios, where the sole purpose of a large board, is to dupe unsuspecting musicians into parting with their money. In larger studios, bands with smaller budgets are often stuck with an intern, who may not even be getting paid. If your music is shit, no amount of production is going to make it a hit. As a small studio owner, I only share work that I think will bring me more business. Wondering why I haven't shared your music? It's because it's garbage. Billie Eilish recorded on budget equipment at home with her brother. Those recordings were then worked on, by some of the best engineers in the world, to make it sound like it wasn't. Be wary of a record label. They may offer to front the costs of your recording and touring, but you have no creative control over your sound, where you record, your tour schedule, and usually the label will own your music. Oh, and you have to pay all of that money back to the label. Be cautious of studios that claim, so-and-so recorded here. There's a studio in Iowa that claims, Slipknot recorded here. And while it's true, Slipknot did record in that building, it was a different owner, different engineers, and some different equipment. You're not going to sound like Slipknot by recording there, sorry. Worked at a department store photography studio, owned by a major photography company, that you can imagine probably took your school yearbook photos. The company also is partnered with a popular online photo order website. Notice how quickly we write down a price, strike it out, and write a new price as the deal? Yeah, that's pretty much just the price that everyone gets. We aren't doing the math that fast, we have it memorized, because almost everyone that comes in has that 40% off coupon. Don't come in without a coupon, there is always a coupon on the website. If you end up paying for sitting fees, it's because you just didn't go on our website. Honestly, don't buy our photos. If you just do the session, and say that you'll buy them online later, on said partnered photo order site, it'll be cheaper than if you buy them in store that day. Yes, even when we say, oh, but you won't get this deal online. If you do buy in studio that day, just buy the digital CD of your photos. You get to keep all of them, instead of having to pick your favorite 3 to 4 pictures. Oh, and again, it is way cheaper to take that CD to a photo kiosk, and have them printed yourself. Please don't spend $400 on a couple photos that you can't legally copy, when you could have gotten an $80 CD of all the photos, and have the copyright to them. Donations made to Children's Miracle Network can be used for absolutely anything. Most of the money that comes in, at a children's hospital, can only be used for specific things, but CMN money comes with no stipulations. Because of this, it's not used for research, but spent on upgrading the lobby, bassinets for healthy babies in the maternity ward, etc. Not so much a secret, but a lesser-known fact. Kirkland products, the white label brand from Costco, are independently tested to beat, or exceed the industry-leading product, in that category. Razor blades, cookies, cheese, laundry pods. If it doesn't beat the industry leader, they won't put the Kirkland name on it. Not really a big secret, but seems to surprise some. I work in aluminum industry. The reason scrapyards prefer the pull tabs on cans, to actual cans, is twofold. They typically are denser, can fit more in a bale, and more importantly, they don't have to inspect, looking for sealed cans. A single sealed soda can, that makes it into a furnace, can blow up half a plant, and send molten aluminium for hundreds of feet. I'm a massage therapist and the biggest secret is stretching. If you stretch properly you'll get rid of effectively 90% of the problems, but no one is taught how to stretch properly. The best stretches are actually the stretches you learn in middle school: hold still, count to 10, take deep breaths, move on. I'm not going to lie, this post has blown up a lot more than I expected, and I'm just going to give a little more information. The whole point of stretching is to do the opposite motion of what the muscle does, whenever it's in use, and the whole point of stretching is, also to alleviate pain, and bring circulation to the area and regulate the muscle's basic systems. So, here's the basic rule: if you hurt somewhere, do not stretch that place, find the opposite muscle in the opposite movement, and stretch that one. The way the body works is, kind of like a giant game of tug-of-war. Muscle actually controls the movement of bone and helps with your posture. No one has perfect posture though. So, stretching makes sure that nobody wins the tug-of-war, and that your bones remain in place as close to perfect posture as possible, which means that your bones and ligaments don't take any damage from gravity, or any other force, that affects your body during your daily life. I will not lie, however, if you do have injuries, like if you broken or torn or dislocated or separated something, that pain will never go away. It will dissipate, and it will get to a lower level in which your body will be able to tolerate on a daily basis, but it will never go away. The body can never correct something that's been broken. This should help you be able to search your own stretches online, but apparently I need to make a YouTube channel. Just thinking opposites: if your back hurts, look for stretches for your front, like in your chest and your core. If the front of your legs hurts, you need to stretch the back of your legs. If the front of your arms hurt, stretch the back of your arms. Just do the complete opposite of wherever you hurt, and start stretching that area, and you should notice pretty quickly that it's tighter when you stretch the side that does not hurt, than versus when you stretch the side that does. If I make a YouTube channel, I'll make the post here somewhere in the comments, so people can find it. Good luck. I used to work in jewelry. Most of the prettiest gemstones are also very affordable. Tanzanite is a beautiful purple, and looks nicer than amethyst. Topaz comes in lots of colors, including a pretty blue color, which can be as nice as aquamarine. Opals aren't as brightly rainbow-hued as they look in pictures. I'm a veterinary nurse, and that viral post about your pet looking for you, if you don't stay in the room when having them put to sleep, is simply not true. It really annoys me, as I can imagine that post has caused a lot of people to feel unnecessary guilt. No one at the clinic will judge you if you don't want to stay. Losing a pet is hard, and how you choose to say goodbye is personal. Our job is to support both you and your pet in this situation, regardless of what you choose. If you feel you can, then that's fine. We cuddle and talk to them as if they were one of our own. I work as an accessibility consultant. There's a misconception that building accessibility is a cost without a return. If I build a ramp, it'll cost money. If I make an automatic door, it'll cost money. But studies in real-life situations have shown that the return is much greater than the cost. If you make your office more accessible, you are able to hire people with disabilities, who actually have lower absentee and turnover rates, saving you money in training and lost time. If your business is accessible, the person is more likely to not only return, but also tell others about your store being accessible. And if you, a customer, or an employee happen to suffer a disabling condition, that person can return to your business afterwards. It's a secret that's not really a secret, but people seem to act like it is. Almost every client I've had, who have implemented accessibility improvements, end up loving it afterwards, and attracted entirely new customers too, such as seniors. I work in the blood industry, for medical/research/manufacture use. When you donate, your red blood cells and most platelets will actually be used for medical purposes, but about 85% of the plasma donated will be sold to make up companies and other manufacturers. Roughly 20% of platelets will also be sold to manufacturers. Your white blood cells will either be sold for research or discarded, since they're basically useless for medical or manufacture purposes. Overall, about 50% of your blood will be used for treatments, and the rest will go to makeup/manufacturing and research companies. I'm not saying don't donate, it still helps people, but it's just something nobody really thinks about when you have that needle in your arm. Starbucks/Subway/Chipotle/Taco Bell/probably other fast/casual food services, all have very high standards of uniformity. Every drink/food should always look and taste exactly the same, anywhere the customer goes, or else. That's the bad news. The good news is that most of us don't care what corporate says, and do care that, 16 olive slices, or 9 caramel ribbons, does not count as extra, and we normally are hooking you up with way more than we are allowed to scoop/pour/serve. Just by instinct. Just out of spite, that we can't pay our whole rent. We almost all agree, F the system. Here's an extra McNugget. If you ever receive food or drink that has way less of the good stuff than you expected, it's most likely not because you have been slighted by lazy employees, and way more likely that you were served by an excellent employee who always follows company standards and measures out exactly what they are supposed to. Calling to complain does very little. You're probably tattling on someone who never breaks rules and is a total butt-kissing narc. Pointing at another employee and shouting, "But he did it for me last time," is a narc move. Stop being a D. Enjoy an endless future of secret decaf espresso and light nacho cheese. I'm a server. No matter how much we insist, it's okay that you are keeping the entire restaurant open after we've closed. Please know, we are 100% lying. We will get fired if we deviate from anything other than pure delight that you are keeping us from going home. We dread it. Please don't believe us. Managed boarding and grooming kennels for 8 years. The secret is that the employees actually do love your pets too. Even the difficult ones. Most of us realize they just miss their people. The number of times I've wept when a pet died, or spent way too many hours comforting a dog with separation anxiety, or spent hours off the clock with a boarder who needed to be rushed to a vet office, wouldn't trade it for the world. Some pets just suck though, not gonna lie. Butcher shops and other food plants are nasty. Unless the people that work there like each other. Every butcher shop I've been to has been disgusting, except the ones where they were talking to each other, listening to music, and having fun. Friends understand that cleaning has to be done, and will talk to each other about it, while others spray it down, because the next guy will clean it better, and I cleaned it yesterday. If you buy from a butcher shop, or other food plants in some cases, look at how the workers interact. Never use Expedia, or third-party websites, when booking hotel rooms. You will get the worst room available. You won't get a free upgrade, ever. No late checkouts for you. You book with me personally? I'll give you whatever you want, it's available. Radiologic tech here. X-ray, CT, MRI, etc. We have to take a pathology/trauma class, and multiple anatomy classes to graduate, so, although we say we can't read the images, or that it looks fine, we know it isn't. I watch the tech's face as the scan is done, if I can. Sometimes, you get a glimpse of, "Oh shit," before they say anything. All I'm saying is, there is a reason no one who works in the RV industry owns an RV. Edit, just some clarification. I work in Elkhart, Indiana, which is the RV capital of the world. As other people have quality is shit on all the major companies. The big ones being Thor, Forest River, and Grand Design. These 3 companies own probably 90% of all RV companies, so check who owns what you are buying. There are some mom-and-pop shops that do put out good products, but those are pretty few and far between. Used to work in menswear, and I got one that's pretty morbid. Most of our tailor shops are filled with suits that were made years and years ago. This is because most of them were made for people who died before they could be picked up. The others are often for weddings that got cancelled after the suit was made. Don't work in this industry anymore, but negotiate the price of your new car before you tell the dealer you have a trade-in. If they ask if you want to trade in whatever car you came in with, say no. If you don't, the sales manager is already on the phone with the Connect and Used Car Sales and negotiating how much he can get for your old car with them. That way he knows how much more play he has to work with on top of the profit margin when negotiating the price of your new car. Negotiate your new car first, and then when you're satisfied, tell them you are thinking of trading in your old vehicle. Most people are so focused on getting a higher price for their old car because it's been well taken care of, low km, blah blah. Dealers just cut into the profit of the new car. Ask for The on the road price, what the total price of the car is when you're driving it off the lot. Never pay a documentation fee or sticker fee. Offset this by asking for extra money off your car. Never buy a car your first visit to the dealership. Walk away with all the information and sleep on it to make an informed decision. The salesman will call you the next day, and 3 days after, and a week after, if he's doing his job. Near the end of the month, you'll be able to negotiate a better price, because salesmen are trying to hit quotas to get bonuses, and taking a car out of inventory makes room for new product. I worked in jewelry retail for the past 5 years. 90% of what retail corporate/upper management says is not practical to use in the field. Most of the time, we would tell corporate what they wanted to hear, and then just do what actually worked. You can't make sales if no one comes into the store, but you're not allowed to use that as an excuse. Everything in the retail world is coded. So, if the reason sales are down is traffic, you have to tell corporate something like, "Our area of opportunity is driving business by increasing customer outreach." It's bullshit. Customer outreach usually would turn into 1 or 2 more people coming in to get their rings cleaned per week. Hours and hours of call logs for no benefit, annoying customers, and sometimes even driving away business. Sometimes, we'd be told to say a specific, extremely stiff line at a certain point in the sale. It sounded okay on paper or during corporate roleplays, but I never once saw anyone pull these off a real sales scenario. Sales are all about tailoring the experience to the customer in front of you. Using scripts will only get you so far. Also, corporate would go through phases with the credit cards, where they'd threaten our jobs if we didn't hit the quota, then they'd get sued due to overpressured employees breaking regulations, so they'd back off credit until the next year. It was an endless cycle, and honestly, the credit pitch in the field was the same the whole time. I guess the retail industry secret is that the field employees usually have deep disdain for corporate.